Howdy, everyone. Welcome into the TexAgs Rewind presented by Yeti. And today on the program, still no David. We'll get him back Friday, actually. But today on the program, had the Go Hour with OB. Of course, can't start the TexAgs radio show without him. We went around Aggie Land with Kay Nagley. Heard from Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC podcast. And, of course, had the man himself, Billy Liucci, here in studio. Check out the Rewind.
And I think this is a great thing for A&M, though. We don't know how much any of those guys are going to play, as opposed to last year when you had to play freshmen. Now you play freshmen if it's to your advantage. So the one guy that I would think, and he may not play much, who knows, is Ruben Owens, because it's, in my opinion, the easiest position to make the transition from high school to college is running back, except for the pass blocking. But as long as you understand, if you get it through their mind, hey, the linebackers are coming a lot faster than you've ever seen before, and they're going to hit a lot harder. Freshmen tend to fumble. And you got to, and I'm sure they'll do that, just pound it through their head, ball security, ball security, ball security. We know you can run. But again, then he comes back to the whole pass protection is a big deal that keeps freshman running backs out. Plus, you have two guys that are good. So are you going to bring him along slowly? Micah Tease, who are you going to take off the field to put Micah Tease on it? Now, sometimes he's going to be out there, but am I going to take Evan Stewart off the field for Micah Tease? Right? Now, Chase Basantes, I could see him maybe even breaking into the starting lineup because they've had some issues at the offensive line. But then we ask you this: what if Trey Zoom played hurt all last year? Is what we understand, and he had some struggles, but he was hurt. He was gutting it out. Well, if he shows that, hey, when I'm healthy, I'm a certified bad guy, then once again, when is the freshman going to get out there? David Hicks, he's going to play.
Who do you think will be the top quarterback in the SEC this year? Will it be KJ Jefferson, you mentioned already, Jaden Daniels maybe at LSU, Will Rogers is, at least for me, kind of a guy that you don't really think of that much, but I mean, he puts up numbers every season.
Yeah, I think Will Rogers, before this season is said and done, will be the SEC all-time leader in like completion percentage, passing yards. I mean, he's got a chance to break every SEC record out there, and really good dude. But I think Mississippi State's going to be a little bit more balanced this year. I think you're going to see a lot more run game. I think they're really going to be a 50-50 type team and be more balanced. You know, it's fascinating when we talk about who's going to be the best quarterback. Like, I got a Heisman bet a few weeks ago on Carson Beck. From Georgia. I think it was 30-1 odds. Just, you know, from a standpoint of Georgia runs the table like a lot of people are expecting they will. Their schedule's a joke. They had to take Oklahoma off, and I think they opened with like Middle Tennessee or somebody. It's a joke of a schedule, but they're going to run the table. And Georgia goes running back by committee. I know they have Kendall Milton and guys, but like they go running back by committee. There's no receiver that jumps out among the rest. Brock Bowers is the best tight end in the country, but they're not going to give a Heisman to a tight end. And their defense is just studly all around. There's not like one guy that jumps out as, oh, that guy's a stud. So at the end of the year, I think we're going to look at it and say Carson Beck's going to have Georgia undefeated, and he's going to have ridiculous numbers. And I think Carson Beck's going to find himself in New York at the Heisman ceremony. And so, you know, it's funny. You ask who's the best quarterback. Well, we just saw the first, second, third teams all came out. It was Jaden Daniels at LSU, KJ Jefferson, Arkansas, Will Rogers, Mississippi State, and Joe Milton at Tennessee. I think at the end of the year, though, we're going to look and Carson Beck's going to be, you know, postseason, either first or second team all SEC because he's going to put up monster numbers. And frankly, we're not talking about him enough right now.
Number one for me, by far, when you combine anticipation and result, was A&M at South Carolina in 2014. It was the first ever game in the SEC Network.
Yep.
It was A&M's first game post-Johnny. People forget Steve Spurrier was the head coach of South Carolina. Everyone was worried about what was going to happen in this offense without Johnny Manziel, without Mike Evans. And it was an absolute blitzkrieg. They played at 5 o'clock. Ric Flair was on the sidelines pregame.
It was a Thursday night game too, right?
It was a Thursday night to start the year. Place was packed. South Carolina atmosphere at its best. And A&M, that was that. I know they've beaten some teams pretty badly, but they've beaten some bad teams. And I know South Carolina ended up not being good. But for them to be a top 10 team, and A&M went there and just, that was about as bad a beatdown as A&M's put on somebody relevant at the time since joining the SEC.
Absolutely.
Now, I would say beating number 5 LSU at the end of the year the way they did this past year might rank number 1 to beat them by 3 scores. But this was an ambush from the beginning. It wasn't even close. Probably one of the couple most shocking results A&M's had in the SEC on the positive side. Obviously, beating Bama, that always shocks everyone. But I think of that game. I think of LSU this year. I think of going into number 3 Auburn with Kyle Allen and running them out of the stadium in the first half and holding on to win. But that game, Kenny Hill and the passing game, and that was Myles Garrett's emergence, and Deshaun Hall and Armani Watts had a big game. Like, that game was just a fun night of football. You know, it's just that you're young time in your life, like at the beginning of college, into high school, beginning of college. So it was like the second Lollapalooza, and it was, okay, here's the deal. It was when they all hit. It was when they all blew up. They're some of the most legendary, like, albums of that time period. So it was, I think, like, there were other bands that were pretty good too, but it was, I don't think it was Alice in Chains. I might be exaggerating on that one. I'd have to look it up. But it was Ice Cube, you know, like the beginning of his solo stuff, really. It was, and here we go. It was Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Wow.
Back to back to back
That's
to end a
crazy.
festival. And this was back when I believe, I'm not positive, I think it was all in one day. I'm almost positive it was all in one day, one night. But it went Eddie Vedder, Chris Cornell, Anthony Kiedis, and Flea straight through. Like, think about the last, like, 5 hours of that concert. And it was crazy, and there were, like, mosh pits and mud, and people were, you know, heat exhaustion, and it was in Sugar Land, actually, like where the fairgrounds were, where they had, like, the Houston. Lollapalooza used to not be in just Chicago. It was a traveling,
Okay, I didn't know
like,
that.
carnival started by, I think, Perry Farrell, Jane's Addiction. But it was like it was a literal festival that would, like, move around. It wasn't a multiple day in one place. So it came, and the Houston spot was there. That was by far. I don't think that would ever be topped. And even looking back on it now, you just go, wow.
Yeah.
But even at that time, you were like, this is awesome.
Was
This
Eddie
is
Vedder
cool.
climbing up on
Yep.
the scaffolding and swinging around?
Nick, you like that kind of stuff. Go look it up. You can find videos of those things. Somebody like backstage back then has stuff on YouTube. Like,
Okay. All right, y'all. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, watch the shorts, watch all of our videos, follow us on Twitter and all that good stuff, and we'll catch you on the next one.